Hi everyone, welcome to PMZG. Today we have Nenad Marjanović with us, and he will be giving a talk on team communication and black magic. Let's welcome him. Thanks.
Thank you. For a start, thank you for having me. I'm a little bit scared at this moment because I'm the only one who is dressed for winter and a little bit warm. But okay, thank you. Thank you for having me. I will do a topic. I will try to do a topic on team communication, which is actually a topic that I can and we all can talk at least 2 or 3 days and not 20 minutes. I will do a little bit different this time. I will going to go a little bit deeper on the mechanics of the team and the communication inside. And I promise Slaven that I will try to explain 2 techniques. Something which is called don't flip the buzzer switch, and nobody can repeat it. Agreed? I'm serious. Okay? And the second one will be how to know if somebody is lying. Okay? It's very simple. You will not need to read any body language, because if you read me now, you will see that I'm actually very warm and a little bit still edgy. But let us start. So, I was introduced by name. I am the project management professional now for 15 years. Almost 24 years in IT industry, even though I look younger. Thank you. I had the privilege to be 2-time elected president for the PMI chapter here in Zagreb. And I do a lot of teaching and coaching around project management, and I will try to do my best to give you all information or explain everything. But I have also flaws. Okay, everybody has flaws. I have one flaw: I speak a lot. Okay, so you need to stop me on 20 minutes. And if something, what I'm saying is confusing, stop me and ask me. Agree? Okay, good. So, communication in project management, I think that everybody was reading at least 5 articles about it. Okay, there is persons who are like that, persons who are like that, younger are like that, older guys are like that, subject matter experts are like that, and so on and so on and so on. But at the end, you end up with percentages. Okay, and the percentages is when we do the project, we communicate 95% as a project leaders. And because of that, everybody hates project managers because they always talk, right? Even though that means that you write a lot of documentation, talk with the customer, you are on the phone, you're on mail, and so on and so on. But this is the job description. So we cannot change that. Then, when you start doing communication, the first thing is you are going with the basics. Verbal communication is only 7%. 55% is your body, how you act, how you stand, how you sit, and so on and so on. Okay? Then the second portion is in the communication, there is a transmitter, there is receiver, there is a channel in between, and assumption, now I'm quoting assumption, is that what you transmit, receiver will understand. But usually it's not the case, because there is assumption, and we all know what they say about assumptions, right? Good. And then you learn something like communication channels. Actually, there is a mathematical formula for it. I have 10 people, so 10 multiplied by 10 minus 1 divided by 2, and then I have some number, big number, a lot of communication channels that I need to control so that everybody is talking the same thing to the customer. So basically you are stuck with the percentages. But if you go deeper, and I did this because I wanted to use this picture, small letters. When you look to the communication deeper, you will actually see that there are things which are not described in the basics. Communication is based on context. If we fight, our communication, whatever we say, will have the context of fighting. If we negotiate, the communication will have different context. Even if we use the same words, even if we mean the same, it will be understood differently by the receiver. Second, everybody is assuming, right? When Slaven invited me, I was under, okay, so it's PM Zagreb, so I assume it is a project management related community. Even though he never said exactly, it is the project managers only, right? So I assumed that potentially I could be wrong. So assumption is a mother of all. When I say it completely, then you know that I'm feeling free on stage, right? Okay. So second, the very important thing is that we usually forget that communication is not between somebody who is transmitting and somebody who is receiving, but it's between the persons. And every person is different. It's unique. Because of the personal experience, because of the knowledge, because of the environment, because of the things that happen in the life of that person. And automatically, the assumptions in that person's mind, communication patterns, is different. So it's not about male and female, subject matter expert, millennials or non-millennials. It's about uniqueness of the person who is communicating. And yes, we are under influence of stereotypes. Right? Everybody think that when I say I'm working 24 years in IT industry, I have 15 years of project management. Usually the sentence, the question that I'm receiving is, have you heard about Agile? No. Even though somewhere in 2001, I was certified as an Agile project manager, right? So it is assumption, and it's wrong, and it's stereotype. But we are under these influences, okay? And in the project, these individuals, these persons, operate in the teams. Nobody in the project works by itself. When I say operate, I didn't say that they are working good. They are just operating in the teams. Okay? And the teams is a group of unique persons who are working together to get to the same goal. And mostly this does not work. They have the same goal, they are in the same environment, they are communicating, and still they cannot get to the goal for which this team is created. They cannot communicate, they have conflicts, because there is something which we call also the team mechanics. Okay? Why I'm talking about the team in the middle of the communication? Because on the project, there is no single person communication. Unless you have psychological issues and you talk a lot with yourself, right? But usually you communicate with somebody. And according to the theory, on projects we have a core team, then we have extended team, then we have the whole project environment, and everybody who is in these circles is potentially your communication target. Right? So what we know about the teams? It's a group of people, persons, to be exact. They work together. Every team have roles assigned. Now a little bit of stereotypes. Usually there is a joker, right, in the team. There is a subject matter expert. There is a guru. There is somebody who is emotional comfort zone for everybody. There is, in the bigger teams, you usually have somebody which is called Big Daddy, right? Who is protecting everybody. And then there is a mother, you know, like a chicken. Two chickens running around, and there's a mother between them. Everything will be okay. Then there is one serious guy, older guy. No, forget it. Don't bother. It is always like that. You will see, and so on. And there is a leader. And we also know that in the teams there are common problems. What is the common problems? Forget it. I will do it my way. I don't care. I know better. Or when you have older project manager, like when I'm working, it's usually this old guy. Forget it. Yeah. He doesn't understand. Right? So we have these issues. We know that it will happen, and that usually results in a conflict. And then everybody thinks, when you hear the word conflict, that somebody is fighting with somebody, right? But it's actually not. They just don't know how to communicate. Okay? Because if you look, okay, in the team before the conflict, you will see the mechanics. They are how the things that I mentioned about roles are actually the mechanics. You know? And now, disclaimer, okay? It is just the theory and experience. It's not opinion. Okay? When you have 100% male team, it's like you're having a herd. You know what a herd is? Right? Usually males, when they present that, say, we are like in a wolf pack. But they're not. They're actually in the herd. Okay? Everybody have horns, and everybody try to be the first on the water. Okay? No, excuse me. This is why I have the disclaimer. Okay? When you have the pure female team, it is very touchy to be on the high performance side. But what is interesting, when you mix it, you get the high performance team. Because immediately when you have mixed team, all basic male or female things disappear. Suddenly all the males in the teams are polite. They talk. They communicate. They listen. Right? On the other hand, when you add male to the female team, you don't have the result, to be honest. Okay? But on the other hand, when you look to as a persons, you want now not the stereotype, but the statistics, you actually have that the females are much better performant team members than the males, because they are focused on work, not on ego, and vice versa. Okay, this is why we have the mechanics to know about it. And because of the mechanics, we know how the conflict will happen. So it's not something that is invented. And I wanted to put this slide about conflicts because I said the perceived conflict is actually a bad communication. Okay? So this is from Wikipedia, what we have as a conflict. So we have the organizational conflict and personal conflict. Okay? Personal conflict is easy. I don't like you. Okay? I don't like your smell, your figure, your posture. I don't like you. And this is chemistry. Okay? You don't need to solve that because you cannot solve it. On the other hand, you have the organizational conflict. Organizational conflict is when you have two confronted teams in the same organization going to the different KPIs. And of course they are passionate, they are going to move it. Okay? But when they're moving to that KPIs, the other team who have opposite KPIs will see that as an attack. And when they try to communicate in the fight mode, you will have a fight. But this is not a conflict. This is conflict between the units. This is not personal project conflict. Okay? And how do we solve that? And this is very simple. A, conflict is not something that you want to have in your professional environment. Because conflict is emotional, it is always personal. Because people in the conflict does not think. And actually people does not think in the conflict because they don't breathe. You know that, right? Do you know what people do when they start conflict? No? They breathe in. But they forgot to breathe out. And then they suddenly lose oxygen. And when they lose oxygen, they cannot think. Okay? So if you are in the stress and going to conflict, you do the opposite. You breathe out. Because body will then force you to do the breathing. So you will continue to think. Right? How to solve it? So first, A, it's emotional, so you need to be above it. Okay? You as a leader cannot be in the conflict. You need to be on top of it, and you need to know the type of the conflict. If it's personal, if it's office romance, it's not yours to be solved. For that, you have corporate policies. And there is a reason for it. Because this too is not about work, ethics, and so on. It's something else where you cannot mentor. So you need HR and policies available to solve these kind of conflicts. Here, you have a possibility to solve it, and it's communication. And when I say communication, when you have the unit conflict, everybody needs to know they want to achieve their goals. It's not against me, it's not personal. They want to achieve the targets. The same is on this part, okay? And you as a leader must forcibly ensure that everybody understands that there is a targets in the organization that needs to be achieved. For example, in the project you have two different teams. Usually somebody who builds something and somebody who tests something. Of course the tester wants to find the bugs. This is why it exists, right? And somebody wants to build it without bugs, right? It's not that they are against each other. They're just doing their tasks, okay? And everybody needs to understand that, okay? Second, one thing that will not work, it's trying to achieve win-win. There is no such a thing of win-win. Win-win means that every conflicted party will accept less than it's originally planned to have, okay? And basically, I always say, when you mix white wine and red wine, what do you get?
Bad wine.
Bad wine. And this is the win-win, okay? Either you drink white or you drink red. So don't try to be Gandhi. It's not your job to be Gandhi. You are leading. Because you are leading, you need to communicate your leadership in the team. So how do you communicate leadership? But having a firm stand by talking and standing at the same time, not allowing that somebody go left or right of the agreed communication. When I say left or right, I mean if somebody starts swearing in the meeting, there is only one thing that you can do: send him out. If somebody is talking bullshit in the meeting, there is only one thing that you will do: send him out. Remember what happened with our soccer team. When one player was going out of the communication channel on a loud metrics, what happened? He was sent home. Because you cannot allow that this communication end up in the bed. And the communication is very important, and one thing will happen in the communication. People will lie to you. So how do you know that somebody is lying? It's very simple. People doesn't know how to speak lie. Okay? Because we usually speak in the positive form, we talk to each other normally. When I say normally, we talk in the context, we use the shortcuts. You know, when you stand next to the coffee shop and then say, let's do a coffee, assumption is that you will go in the coffee shop, right? When the people talk lie, they doesn't know how to speak. So suddenly they speak long sentences with a full of descriptions. Okay? They are always they cannot continue the sentence. If you stop them, they will go all the way to the beginning and then start again. Okay? And the same, if anybody will going to, in the future, work in sales, it's the same. If you have a customer and you ask him, when I'm going to be paid for my work, and then you see these patterns, somebody is lying. Somewhere is a problem. Okay? The good thing to know is that people are boxy when they lie. You know what the boxy is? If you look to everybody now how is sitting, okay, they're very relaxed, right? Boxy people are not. They are straight. When they use the hands, if you notice that I want to do something with my hands, right? When they lie, people have a short angle movement with the hand. But not always, only when they speak. Because as they speak correct sentences, right, which are by the rules trying to convince somebody, they are also using short, boxy things with the hand. Because they need an anchor. And you don't need to be a mentalist to do that. It's about understanding and knowing your team in your team and the persons in the team. Okay. When you see them, this is why we actually do the forming and the part at the beginning of the project, right? When the people are coming together, there is a saying: if you see the guy or lady drunk at the beginning of the project, you know how they behave. Okay? And after that, if you see then something suddenly boxy, something is strange. Okay? I think the presentation will be shared, right? Later?
Yeah.
Okay. So there is actually 8 topics regarding the patterns in the sentences that you can actually cross-check later. Okay? And now, the buzzer switch. As I said, team have a mechanics. One of the mechanics inside the team is that team will follow the leader. Okay? And if everything is correctly set up, you as a project manager or project leader, you are the leader. Okay? Flipping the buzzer switch means that you will publicly, in front of the team, without that person who will be the buzzer, point out that he is no good. Okay? And then ended up with some additional bad characteristics of that person. Okay? What will happen because of the mechanic of the team is that the whole team will accept that view on that person and continue with having that kind of relationship toward this person. Okay? So this is something that happened because of the follow the leader psychology in the team. And when I said you cannot use it, you are not allowed to use it, even take a picture of it. I'm joking. Is because there is no way out. If you do that in your team and you target somebody with this technique, this person must go. There is no way that you will change the perspective of the team toward that person. First time this technique is documented in 1980s in some of the books about management of the software development. And it's more about how to deal with the people who are not doing their job, but you cannot remove them. Okay? So this is one of the techniques that you use for the team to remove them. What actually happening is the team is completely broke the tie with this person and they don't talk. And then he is that one. And he felt pressured and then he leaves. Okay? So nobody is doing nothing to him. It's just that you pointed out this guy is not good for us. Okay? And then the whole team is actually turning back to it. Okay? So keep that in mind. It is a technique. It is the only pure black magic of the communication in the team. And please don't use it because there is no way out. Okay? It's really a last weapon that you have with your team. And with that, quick recap. Remember it. You communicate with the persons and every person is unique. Communicate as a leader. Yes, everybody is a friend. But friend and project team leadership are two completely different things. Okay? You can do more for them if you act as a project leader than as a friend. Don't forget it. Okay? Know your environment, know your team. Know how to mutually act because mechanics are very important. Maintain focus because you will have good and bad days and your team will have good and bad days. Okay? And just to give you the comment here, I had in the team in the same time two colleagues who worked together very closely. One was from Ukraine, the second one was from Russia. And then the Russia occupied Kremlin, right? And what happened? You cannot have them in the same room. Okay? Because things can change without your affecting. Okay? And never ever use boss technique. Okay? With that, thank you. I think that I will step it for a few minutes, right? Yeah, sorry for it. But I'm done.
I actually need that mic because this battery died. Okay, so Vlatka is going to join us up here. And we'll have our Q&A now. As a reminder, if you ask questions, you get to have a sticker from the big bag of stickers. Ooh. There's some really cool ones.
So is it only me?
Yeah. We had Jenny, but she had an emergency, so, and of course our speaker. So, okay, so who has questions? Raise your hand, and we'll come find you in the audience. No questions so far. Oh, here we go.
Thank you. Well, it's not really so much of a question, rather a comment. You mentioned the win-win situation, but I'm fairly certain you misdescribed it. If we meet in the middle, like mix black and white wine, that's not the win-win. That's a compromise. And you're right, it's not what you want to do. Win-win is something else. That's when you get your white wine and I get my red wine somehow. But if you mix it, it's not win-win. This is just my comment.
I like this win-win. I don't believe in win-win. Simply because win-win is middle. And if I, as a leader, see that something needs to be done on the left, there is no win-win. The only win-win is left, because at the end, I'm the responsible one for the project success. Yeah? In the conflict, people fight, and this is not my conflict. So, as I said, you need to be on top of it, no in it. Okay? If they can get a compromise, fine. Okay? But what I want as a project leader, that this conflict does not influence my plan, my success, my targets, my goals, and so on. Okay. So if they move the conflict toward me, I push back, and then it's me. Me as a leader have the absolute and total control over it. Okay. In the pragmatic view, okay, if two of my team members are fighting, and because of that the work on the project have a problem, these two members are fly away from the project. Simple as that.
You're very lucky that you have full control over your team like that. I think a lot of us work in these environments where we have our developers that we cannot necessarily say who is working on the project.
Maybe I'll end up in the hospital because of that.
Tony has a question.
Okay, I can be louder.
Yeah.
So did you ever experience like the Bozo situation, knowingly, like you saw, okay, they mentioned him as a bozo, this is now going to happen in a period of 1, 2, 3 months, and you mentioned it was documented, so is there really no documentation on how to undo it?
If I don't say it, this guy is a bozo, so it's no go, because it's about how the people follow the leader. So yes, I was in the situation when the team was unconsciously was pointing one of the colleagues as a bozo, but because I didn't say it, nothing happened. Yes, I used the technique a few times, but only because I could not control who is in my team. Okay, so it was either project, my salary versus this guy. Okay, my project, right? And it's documented as it's the same is happening in any unit, closed unit. It's working, and even if you undo it, meaning you bring the person back on board, it's still going to be a bad reputation issue.
I mean, what would be the steps to undo it? Like to mention in like a glorified way, or
In military psychology.
any
Okay, so actually what I read is that this is something that happened, that the first was noticed in psychology during the military units working in Vietnam. Okay? If some of the guy was not equal warrior, okay, as everybody else, nobody didn't want to work with him, okay, and then usually the leader of the unit said, okay, this guy is not that good, then automatically he was removed from it. They tried to replace it, but the only thing that they can do it was move the person to other unit, okay, because now at one moment that became the personal emotional opinion about somebody. You know, this personal conflict when they say, I like you and I don't like you. Okay? Suddenly people does not like you. Okay? And you cannot handle
Okay, so
that.
move to another unit.
Move to the other unit.
That would be, yeah. Okay.
Or if it's really that bad, lose it. Right?
Tony seems a bit anxious about that question. I'm wondering if there is some personal experience.
That's an interesting topic.
Yeah. So my question is, what is the responsibility of the team leader when, for instance, they cannot necessarily change the structure of their team? So it's day one. Is there something you should be doing from day one to make sure that the communication stays healthy throughout the project? Is there some information we should be giving the team right away?
Where do I begin? Yeah, you said a lot of things, and I kind of wanted to comment, but it's too much. So I'll refer to your question. So basically, I don't know. I think that as a project manager, I'm in charge to organize the team and use their expertise in the best possible way. So I am responsible for the project and the product, but we have also people in the team, and I think that the shared understanding of what's the goal of the project is most important, because if from the day one that's not important, not communicated, then all the team members will probably have like different perspectives. Like the guy in the design team will want probably to have awesome animations and transitions, and the guy in the development will try to use the latest framework or work in certain technology. So basically, I think that in the beginning, communicating clearly the project goals is something that's important to state to all the team members, and then try to give that responsibility to them. So I would maybe go more with communicating less with authority and more with the mediator, neutral role, because it seems to me that it works better in all these conflict situations, but that's another story.
I agree. I agree, but there is I agree 99%. Okay? I don't agree on shared responsibility.
Shared understanding.
You said you need to understand the responsibility for the project products to them.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? Yes, they need to do their work,
Mm-hmm.
but at the end of the story, somebody will ask project leader what is done. Okay, and because of that, there is a authority needs to be continuously not. When I say authority, it's not a negative authority. You need to do. It's not that. It's really about you need to understand that there is different roles in the project, and every role have a different perspective, and only one role have a global view over the project. Strategy, customer reaction at any moment, budget, status, schedule, cost, risk. And all these views are in different portions distributed to the roles, yes. But the only role who have full, I would say, impact of all of these views are with the project leader, right? And yes, I agree. I usually use something which is called the project governance document. I don't know if you've heard it. It is actually very clear in plastic words said, this is what the project is all about. This is what we need to achieve. This is our due dates, okay? This is we as a team. I'm expecting that you will tell me if you have issues. I'm here to help. I'm expecting to do your work. And this project governance document I usually share only with the team members, not the customer, okay? Because it's, I always refer to it, if somebody has suddenly a conflict issue and so on, I said, okay, is it something that I mentioned in the governance document? Yes, no. If yes, deal with it, okay? Because for sure I'm not going to be the mother or father, right? The second thing is, if you cannot deal it, yes, we can talk. But then it's something usually about. And yes, I was talking about something which is published in the white papers here. But at the end of the story, you need to be a person to deal with the persons, right? If somebody have issue at home and because of that he's in fight with his team colleague, yes, bring him to beer, coffee, talk with him, try to help him, okay? If somebody have personality issues, show him the door. I mean, sorry for it. He can be expert, but if he doesn't know how to behave, right? If he doesn't know if somebody is breaching any kind of nice, let's call it the bon ton of the environment, okay? Meaning male is not acting correctly toward female colleague, show him the door. It's not something that you will solve with any methodology or organizational things. Okay?
Okay, so let's agree that we disagree.
Most.
So, yeah, so I think that we are coming from different backgrounds. So I've been on PMP some sessions, and I'm familiar with how PMP work. But basically, I think in our agencies, meaning 5, maybe the Gordian, we were a little bit different. So maybe this perspective differ in that way. Because I would ask on your answer, like the question, okay, who is responsible for the team failure if they don't meet the deadline?
Project leader.
Okay, yeah. So I didn't do the job. I am responsible, but I didn't do my best to organize the team so they can meet the deadline. I haven't foreseen any problems or maybe risks or something together with them, of course. But yeah, basically I'm the responsible one.
Yeah.
So the shared responsibility is something that I think that we agree and disagree a little bit about it. But basically all those examples, I don't know, we don't have those gender issues or something where, I don't know, female in the agency are
No, I
treated.
didn't really mention the gender issue. I said if somebody doesn't know how to behave
Yeah.
as a person,
I think that these guys here and in our company, they really behave nicely, and those are not the issues. The issues that we have are kind of like, okay, you said that it will be finished till today, at the end of the day, but it's not. And now we are talking about the delay of, I don't know, 4 or 6 hours a day too. So this is the problem where project manager doesn't know how to maybe solve this situation with somebody who is keep telling him that he'll finish it and he doesn't, and then the problem starts with the communication, with the pressure and things that maybe we experience.
Yeah, I think in those sorts of situations where there's maybe a delay or someone has an estimate that they put forward and then it's clear that they're not going to make it, I think there's a couple of things there that prevent people from just coming out and saying, hey, I'm not going to make this deadline that I told you. And a lot of times it's either like shame based on like what the other team members will think of you, or maybe even like you put too much pressure on yourself, like, oh, I'm a failure because I didn't succeed when I said I would, and that goes into the whole, imposter syndrome, which almost everyone is is subject to. So I think there's this concept called psychological safety, which is basically the idea that even if you're failing, you can tell your team members, and that's a good thing because they're there to actually help you and support you. And so I think that those are the types of things that inside agency work, it's really important, especially when we have teams that are in constant fluctuation, where you have maybe back-end developers are working on it for like 3 weeks, and then you have front-end come in for 2 weeks, and then there's a little bit of overlap, and then someone leaves to work on some other project. And so when you have these teams that are constantly changing, you also have dynamics that change as well, where people take on different roles based on who's on the project. So that's kind of my perspective, like encouraging people when they are failing to speak up and have it not be a negative thing. It's a good thing when you speak up when you're failing. I think that's really important.
Yeah, I mean, I can add that some of the communication problems that I experienced so far are basically very simple one and so basic one. Like junior developers or designers are usually not that communicative in the beginning. So if he's trying to solve a certain problem for, I don't know, 2 days and no one has asked him about, what's the problem, he has to have someone to encourage him, like, come on, come with me, I know a guy here in the other room on the other project who is going to help you. I mean, the organization should also make sure that that doesn't happen, that someone is, walking around, asking people how things are progressing and if any help is needed. But sometimes project manager can just encourage someone who is young and inexperienced, like, hey, that you said last time that you're working on this, is there any problem? Let's sort it out together. I know, come with me and we can find a solution by asking some senior guys here. I know it's an ego issue sometimes for developers, like I don't want anyone to help me, but it's also a way to, make sure that it's not like you are now putting him on a wall of shame. You're just making the comfort zone more extended, so he feels like, okay, this is normal here if someone doesn't know something. So I think those situations should be much more often in the company, so people feel free to say, I don't know, I'm sitting here for 3 hours and I can't sort it out. And maybe some guy will tell you like, hey, here's the, I don't know, error or something. So simple things.
Another question? Okay. Last comment, question? Okay. Did you have a comment on that while we're, no? Good, okay.
No.
Yeah.
Not a comment, just a add-on. Okay. I agree that industries are different, okay, but as I said, the responsibility is at the end with you, okay, and I think that from my experience, work with the development teams was that one of the most important things for me was to make them understand that their fail is my responsibility, okay? On the other hand, if they need something, they will get it from me first, right? So I'm the one to help. On the other hand, they said usually that loyalty is the fuel of the team. So if the team is loyal to you, then basically the communication of these safe zones are working. On the other hand, if somebody breaks the loyalty, it can be a problem. And I agree, it is a problem when you are not in the family, in the organization, when you are a freelancer, when you need to lead the team who is somebody other's organization, then you need to have a very clear models how you lead them, because you cannot work with them all the time.
So you mentioned that you had like expert, that there might be a person that is an expert but has, you know, bon-ton problems and doesn't know how to behave, and you need to show him the door or show her the door. How do you encounter such situations, and how does it affect the project? Because in my opinion, it's quite a radical measure. And if you have an expert on the team that is, I don't know, 2 months in the project, and you show him the door, you basically work towards your failure as a whole project with that. Maybe you can replace it, but in my experience, it's very hard. It will surely have some consequences.
So I'm specific as a project manager. I actually throw out my manager out of the conference room. So throwing out somebody out is not an issue. You can do that. Now about the expert. Okay. My motto from when I was a system engineer, somewhere in the 90s, right, was I don't want to be the best, I want to be continuously good. And the same is with the team. Usually the expert is somebody, as you have the single expert issue, this is what you're asking, if you have a single expert issue, but he doesn't know how to behave, okay? These are not bad guys, these are experienced guys, they know how to react and act, okay? But they need to be aware of the environment, okay? And if you throw him once, usually these people are coming back, okay? And they suddenly communicate completely different, okay? It is an ego issue, as a colleague said. And this is why I usually throw him out. Bon-ton issue or not behaving and expert are not something that usually comes together, okay? Usually what I met, or I was lucky enough to meet, experts that I met, female and male, are really know how to behave, because they have the full view over their work or the expertise, and they know what is the connection points, and actually they are very good mentors. If somebody is acting, then he have, now personal opinion, if somebody is expert and behave like that, then he have some other issues, but he's not expert, right?
Slaven, you have one question? I just want to make one comment.
I just want to comment that there is always an expert that is not an asshole, so do not work with assholes.
Very precise.
So then you mentioned never switch the
Switch a switch.
yeah, never flip the Bozo switch. So you were talking about what not to do. So maybe you can share some of your experience as a project managers. Maybe point out just one thing that for you meant something to turn around the project that was negative. So from your perspective, what is the one thing for us not to do on the project?
Not to do.
Not to do, yeah.
With the project member or with the project in general? Like
In general, with the team on the project.
if someone is like making
Regarding the team communication, maybe.
Don't break the trust
Okay.
between the team. As I said, loyalty is the hardest one to build, and it's the fuel of the team, and one that it's easiest to be broken. You remember that in the presentation I said you can do more for them if you are a project leader than the friend. Okay. Sometimes you need to be between the up and the team, right? If they perceive you as a friend, you cannot fight for them up. Okay? And it can be an issue. Okay? So this is my experience when you have the standard organization of the agency creative, right? On the other hand, don't and as an end, never ever break the loyalty circle.
replica. Okay. Yeah. So basically, I would make the difference. So friendship is when we are sitting there and drinking beer. So I'm not even trying to be, a friend with someone while working on the project. But we are all friends. I mean, we spend so much time together working, and it's unavoidable for us. In our world, agency world, we're like, as I said, spending too much time together, and it's we can't avoid it. But when we work together, I mean, everything should be just clear. Like, I have my job to make for them the delivery, the resources, the working conditions. I don't know, anything they need, the inputs, the clarification from client, backend support. I'm the one that I can make that happen, so they can get it faster or get more inputs about it. They, on the other hand, have also clear understanding of what their job is, but I wouldn't mix the difference, between like the roles that we have in the agencies are clear. Like, everyone knows what they need to do, but sometimes the perspective is the problem for us, because, as I said, assumptions for the designer that he wants to do transitions or animations, or he wants to try something new, that's something that he assumed because I wasn't communicating clearly to him, probably either the deadline or the specification. So I think that the communication between people in the team is the most important, and we should talk clearly and not mix friendship with that. I can be friend with him. It's not. I think the friendship is not the issue here, but the style and the way how we communicate when we work together, that causes problems a lot.
What was the one thing?
Yeah.
All right, my one thing is don't stay quiet. If you need something, say something, because I cannot read your mind.
Yeah. That's a good one.
Okay. With that, we're out of time. Thanks again to our speaker and our panelists. Please stick around and have a drink and some snacks. And everyone, please put your hand in the air. And keep your hand in the air if you are currently hiring PMs. That's the guy you want to talk to. All right, thanks. See you next month.